I think what drives me is some elusive quality of trying to get something right, whatever that means, and never getting it quite right. So you keep trying, you keep trying, you keep trying. Doing art is the only thing I've come across that gives me any idea that I'm anywhere close to understanding what the universe is about. It all sounds very mystical, I know, but I think that's, what drives me. The real truth in the universe is there's movement and change, and what art reflects that. And dance, anything with movement or music or whatever, but in painting or sculpture, it's just all static. I guess around certain objects or certain situations, there are certain conventional parameters, and then we can begin to use those meanings like a writer, like a musician, like a cook, whatever, and create some sort of composition or dish. I think it was on 68, thereabouts, close enough. I was getting doubtful that painting equal art and art equal painting. I began to suspect that art might be more than that. I was literally thinking my work as a surrogate for me, and we talk about a body of work, and so I took it very, very literally, and thought of it as a body that had to be cremated. The ashes I still have. They were given to me in these sort of, like a shoebox, but not quite as big. And that would be the size for the ashes of an adult. So I got 9 boxes of those. And then one smaller box, which was used for babies and amputated limbs. They asked me if I wanted an urn for the ashes, and I hadn't thought about it prior, and I said, well, let me see what you got. The one I chose was in the shape of a book. I liked that, as I could have it on my shelf. And I did actually make some cookies out of them at one point. Only one person that I knew ever ate one. And the idea there was that there'd be some sort of return, that pigment comes out of the earth and it comes back, and made in the paintings, and the painting is burned, goes back into the earth again by shitting it out. And so painting is just one point on the circle. I was truly sick. Just like a whole new world opening up. I didn't know what it was, but it wasn't going to be painting. I got called conceptual art because that's the time where my work began to emerge. Basically, back then, conceptual art meant you didn't paint.
I am making art, 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 I am making art. I am making art, I am making art, I am making art, I am making art, I am...
Everywhere I look, I'm thinking about alternate ways of seeing what I'm looking at. And it's just escape boredom. Getting interested in photography. How do you take a good picture? How do you improve your photograph? It's still out there. Don't pose your subject in front of a tree because the tree will look like it's growing out of the person's head. I thought, well, that's kind of cool. You can do that? So I just put the two together. Picture of me standing in front of a tree. labeled wrong. And it's all about framing, isn't it? I mean, it's where we're looking. Those decisions that reject might be very fruitful. This was a game I played with myself. I mean, who would care? But I would very carefully compose a photograph and camera on a photograph, get it just perfectly, and then I'd just pick the camera up and move it and take the picture. I just took the tack of saying, well, what did you did give people what they understand? They read newspapers and magazines and books. And what if you just gave them information and photographs? They look at photographs, so they take photographs, speaking in the language of the realm. My father, he lived till about 99, and even then he spoke broken English. So I think in my effort to communicate with him and trying to make things clear, that also implemented this idea of how to effectively communicate. Also, I was born during the Depression, and so he wanted the best for me, and the best for me was being able to survive. And he saw, he didn't see how I would survive as an artist. My mother was a little kind of middle class, I guess. And how they got together, I'll never know. What I knew of culture, I got from her because she actually had a couple of kind of bad copies of paintings, but they were actual paintings hanging on the wall. She would get novels sent from Denmark, where she was from, and I remember having to slice the pages open back in those days where one did that. And I think I developed a love of books then. I still have this idea and a word and image are of equal value to me in my mind. I've always been interested in using appropriated imagery, found imagery, simply because if I needed an image of a house and I found a photograph of a house, why should I go out and take a photograph of a house? It's just about the image. And it was about taking a beautiful photograph of a beautiful house. Yeah, then I would do it. But I wasn't interested in that. I was just interested in signifiers. Originally, these film stills, I was getting them just because they were found imagery. But then a lot of them, not all of them, would come from movies. And then I began thinking about I could really use people's collective unconscious of imagery in movies as something I could play with. The big two categories that appeared right away, were violence and kissing scenes. It's just, two sides of a coin. And so that was one of the first pieces I did. I had some 8x10 photographs. Usually they were civic officials doing one thing or another, and finding those photographs very irritating. And I had some price stickers around on the table one day, and I just covered up their faces, and all of a sudden they were less irritating because I felt that those are the kind of people that were making decisions about my life when I was locked up inside of my studio. So this kind of leveled the playing field a little bit. And you could see that they were interchangeable. Didn't matter who he was. I was more interested about his social position, the power, and how he was posturing that interested me, not his face. think in one way you could say I'm a collagist. And what's that about? By taking things from here and there and putting them together. Look at my studio, I'm a pack rat. I can't get rid of anything. And I think that, that gets recycled in one's art. In my mind, collage is when two things don't go together too easily. If it's right, there's a kind of tautness there that is, if you pull them apart any further, it'll snap. You get them any closer, it'll be flabby. But if you get just the right tension, it's terrific. I do credit audiences for being tremendously sophisticated. I don't think you have to pander to an audience. But once they're looking, then the question becomes how to hold their attention. And if they're saying, yeah, okay, an image of a chair and an image of a table, I get that, big deal, so next picture. But you get an image of a table, and a shark. Wait, why is that shark and the table together? Then you try to find a reason for that shark and that table being together. And that's where it really gets you have to be creative, because it's just so really stupid to have a shark and a table together. Right now, I even think it's a stupid idea. But it has to be something dissimilar enough that it's intriguing. A room was reserved for a special project, which is done, I guess, in all of the retrospectives. And what I'm doing on one wall, there is a one half of a brain painted white, or it will be white, and on a sky blue background. And the idea is that I want it to look like a cloud in the sky and be ambiguous. And why that? Well, I've been, occupied a lot with clouds and sky, and you just look up here, some images of skies and clouds. And I had just done a piece with a nose looking down from a cloud-filled sky that's supposed to be seen on the ceiling. And all of that stuff had come from very early paintings. Yeah, I guess it's, again, about clouds or ephemeral. They change shape. We see things in the clouds. I guess the boredom part of me is something genetic. It's like having a disease you have to contain all your life. You just got to get to your studio every day and you do nothing but sweep up, and eventually you'll get bored, and you'll try not to be bored. And then that's the beginning of creativity.